Rex Gibson. Good afternoon and welcome. Rex, we've got your written submission.
Yes.
You can assume that members have read it. We've got about 15 minutes. Over to you how we use that. The more time you spend speaking to us, the less we'll have to engage with you. So welcome once again.
Ina rakatira ki te komiti whiriwhiri o paramiti a te oroa taki te Regeneration Bill. My name's Rex Gibson. I'm one of the co-chairs of One Voice Te Reo Kotahi. In that group, which is at last count 106 community groups and small NGOs which have come together and they're on the register that's on the submission for you, I represent Te Runaka ki o Te Tahi o Kaitahu. As I say, that's one of our 106 organisations. We like to speak from the communities, not for the communities. And I'd like you to sort of take that on board, that I'm not speaking for them, I'm speaking from them. It's our hope that your work on this bill in its final form will focus on its purpose with the emphases that I've listed in the written submission. Our component groups are passionate about seeing explicit recognition of the third sector in the regeneration process. In a similar way to Peter's final comments there a minute ago, they want to be involved. I was heavily involved in the immediate post-quake response work, managing and coordinating 60 agencies, mostly NGO from our base at Rehua Marae, from February right through from September right through the February and beyond activities in Believe here. That was for the support of migrant and refugee communities in the post-quake period. The most important immediate support conduits came from their families and their communities, and particularly their community organisations. This is who we work primarily with. These have been the most effective communication channels in both disaster and consequent rebuild for all those communities and many, many more. Our groups want to see the Regeneration Bill provide public acknowledgement of the role of the third sector, not only in the disaster response, but also in the recovery and the future resilience planning. We also want to see the community definition broadened. In the SARA Act, as we understood it, communities were communities of locality. We deal with place-based communities, interest-based communities, and identity-based communities. Local management and government is vital for access for our organisations. Community board members, city councillor, etc., and their staff exist to do that work. They live amongst the affected population and are directly accountable to them. There's a lot of cynicism amongst our members that they come back to the old statement of a central government agency only has one client, its minister. They want to work with people who are accountable directly to them. I guess the alternative to that is continued harassment of the poor old MPs in Wellington. Every time there's an issue that arouses their passions. The research under the All Right Mental Health campaign showed that rebuilds and regenerations cost less when people affected share the values and purpose of the plans. The communities know their needs and they want recognition for their roles. They also want to support the processes. That's why the roles of the third sector need to be included in the bill. Members of our community groups and the small NGOs also want to understand how the system works, and then they want to participate. Some already assist or have done significantly and probably more effectively than some of our desk-bound public servants have been able to, and I can give you anecdotal examples of that ad infinitum. Communities need rebuilding just as much as the infrastructure does, in this city, we red zoned 11,000 houses. Now that meant we relocated between 33 and 44,000, according to my estimates, of people across the city. That's the population of any average provincial city in New Zealand who we relocated. This tore apart community groups, from recreation groups to social groups to cultural groups to social service agencies. This hikoi put huge pressures on the suburban communities that received them and those evolving in the new subdivision. They feel they therefore have a right to be involved in the regeneration and the planning side of things. We suggest that you look closely at the opening section of our submission, and that is the things that we support, and hopefully find a way that you could include some of them in the way in which you word the bill and the way in which you operate. Kia ora.
Kia ora, thank you very much, Rex. Now, members, are there questions? No.
Kia ora.
Tēnā koe, Rex. Thank you for the submission, actually, and for highlighting the really important role that NGOs particularly actually play within this. Now, understanding that the bill itself provides a kind of a new legal framework to support the regeneration and remaining rebuild work. The other one, enabling local leadership, all of this. And I suppose there is sort of one part, particularly it doesn't address things like sort of community well-being and things like that. But I believe that is picked up around the sort of community mind strategy. So without actually looking at sort of direct recognition, within the bill under the purposes, do you think that that's what you're asking for, isn't it?
Well, we'd certainly like to see the full well-beings transferred into this and,
Right.
and cemented in this. It's as part of what we're asking.
Okay, so the other thing, so this, your organisation is actually based out of Rehua, so that's where the hub is?
No, that's where I was based in the work that I was doing for the organisation I was working with at that time. No, we don't have a base.
Okay.
We don't even have a bank account. We just come together.
Okay, so it's a collective.
Yeah, it's a collective.
Loosely bound collective.
Of 100, just over 100 community organisations, small NGOs.
Okay, so
we've run a series of forums over the last 3 years or so on issues affecting communities and the groups. And to give them credit, all the mayors, Sarah, ECAN, those groups have all been ready to come along and front up. And out here, Bennett has come as well to communicate. We become the conduit for that communication for community groups in the past, particularly with Sarah and with any other groups that have been doing the planning.
Okay, good.
Thanks very much. There appear to be no other questions, so Rex, can I, on behalf of the committee, thank you for being with us today and also for the written submission. We certainly appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Can I call to the table, please, Empowered Christchurch, Hugo Christensen?